Hey guys, Griffin here, and today we're going to be talking about whether bear weaving is still the meta and hopefully give us some ideas and some other metas that are starting to pop up. But before we get started, please take the time, like and subscribe so you don't miss out on videos like this. Okay guys, so I did a video about the top 10 on patchwork a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to do another one kind of as a follow-up to see, hey, is it still a thing? What's going on? Are there any other? And I didn't mention flower shifting. I think I might have even missed it on that video where people were doing it. So we're going to be talking about what flower shifting is and see if there's anybody in the top 10 of this particular fight doing it. So I, instead of doing patchwork, had a lot of people say that patchwork's not fair because a lot of the time their DPS relies on the threat cap of their 3 tanks. And I picked Instructor Razuvious, which you might argue has the same problem. But me personally, I've never had a problem with threat on Razuvious if our tanks know what they're doing. Now, if you don't know Razuvious, the tanks don't tank really. You usually have priests mind control and do the tanking. So they pretty much, the gear is no longer an issue. It's just pump. So because of that, I chose this because it's still straightforward. It's not a lot of moving around, and this should be a really good indicator of how everyone's doing on a standstill fight, though it's not patchwork. And just to be clear, these are snapshots of time and a very limited amount of data. So if you really want to dig into this, I recommend taking the time and starting to dig into your own kind of ideas and logics, because there's things I'm not even going to mention. Duration is a thing. The DPS of your other raid members is obviously a factor. What your gear score is. So these guys like right here, Ursa has a 215 gear score. Yeah, was beaten by a 212. Even though these are all really high scores, this might give them an advantage in certain ways that they're playing their character. There's so much to think about. So I just, take that with a huge grain of salt that yes, this is going to be, I think, interesting, but at the same time, I'm not able to cover every aspect of the game and we're looking at a very small window to give us an anecdotal idea of how things are going. So just keep that in mind. If the number one DPS happens to be a monocat, does that mean everyone goes monocat? No. It just means that in this instance, in this particular amount of time, in this collection of data, this is the number one. Okay, just want to get that out of the way. So again, I mentioned I'm doing Instructor Razuvious instead of Patchwork. I definitely think this is still going to be interesting. There is a mix. I already went through a lot of these logs. I'm only going to be doing the top 10. However, if you're on the screen anywhere, congratulations, you are doing an amazing job. You do start to see a lot of the same names come up week by week. I've seen a lot of these names, especially as you scroll down. Trying to find if there's anybody. I know people always ask me, yeah, but how did Rugs do? I don't know why. I think Rugs is overall like 36 in the world on All Stars. I'm sure he's somewhere up here. So yeah, if you're like, I don't know if I should trust Rugs, the guy knows how to play his character. So don't hesitate. I know I've given Rugs a hard time because of some videos, but like honestly, he's an absolute pumper. But again, you see a lot of these names pop up at the same time. Ursa's always up here. Man Bear Tank's been up here. But it shifts enough that you start to see new, fresh takes on different classes. So if it was the same 10 every time, that'd actually be boring. What you're seeing is like more people are trying different things, and it's showing up in their logs. So let's just enjoy the fact that it's random people. But congrats to anyone that's up here, because you know how to play a character. Okay, so let's start off with Shienda. Number one, if you're not surprised, if you haven't looked at this yet, the number one DPS on Razuvious is a monocat. Now this is interesting because I know a lot of people are like Bearweaving is the best. Bearweaving, Bearweaving, Bearweaving. And don't get me wrong, I think Bearweaving is definitely, and you're going to see it in the top 10. It's definitely still a thing, but I think this is starting to show that how important rotation is over um, maybe just trying to fit a Bearweave in. If you can do your rotation well, you can still parse really well. And I tell people that all the time. People are like, you can't get a 99 with Monocat. You can. Maybe not on all fights right now, but you will be able to. So if you're struggling with bear weaving, maybe don't, or maybe master this and see how your numbers go, and then try to do bear weaving. But this is a good example of it's not absolutely necessary. Serenite bombs, come on, man, come on, come on, just pay the extra gold and get the good stuff. Anyway, okay. They use speed, by the way. I think this is something I'm not going to talk about it on every single one. But there are two choices. Speed is the one that I usually use, but I have been using the I forgot what's called, the magic one, the crit one. They're both really good. I definitely think speed is a more consistent one. However, if you're trying to get these big crits, it might be cool to pop the magic. I'm sure people have simmed it. It can't be that much of a difference because you see both mixed in. But yeah, pure monocat doing a great job. Obviously, engineering with a hyperspeed accelerator. Okay, let's pick the next guy, number 2. I apologize. I'm going to call this Chinese 1. I don't even know if this is Chinese. I'm just going to assume. Okay, so this is your first lacerate weaver at number 2. So you can clearly see that Bearweaving hasn't gone anywhere. It's still up there in the top 10, but because you're seeing monocat usurp it, at least at the number 1 position, it is interesting to keep an eye out for when this is going to fall off. A lot of people are saying in phase 2, once we get the tier, it might actually be earlier than that because we're starting to creep up on these gear, so much so that we can stay in it. Now, there is another technique, and I will mention it in the video because there's a couple of them on here. But Bearweaving is not the only way to get crazy amounts of parses. Obviously, monocat's a thing, but Bearweaving still here. In fact, number 2 is also Bearweaving. Or sorry, number 3, I apologize. So this is Man Bear Tank. This person is always towards the top of the list. So good on them. And they are a standard lacerate weaver. Something I've been looking at is I've noticed that the maul is almost always now higher than the lacerates. So this isn't a true lacerate weave. This is them kind of fitting it in when they can. Like here, if I remove shred, you'll see that they only maul. Let's put bear form up there. There we go. So they only maul, and this is bear form, what, twice? They did, yeah, bear form twice. That just goes to show you, even if you aren't perfect at the rotation, if you're not doing the full stacks, this is still really good. Really good performance here. So just keep that in mind. Maybe they're only doing it, they're getting quick stacks up during their heroism phase. But yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. Again, speed, global thermal, there we go. That's some respect right there. And then again, engineering, obviously. And for 2 ferocious bites. I'm curious where they put those at. So they have a ferocious bite right at the end. I've actually done this recently and I really like it. At the end of your berserk, let me put berserk up. Do you have an idea? So berserk happened right at the end of it. You've got your 5 points and your other 2 are stacked. Here, let me show you. Let me put up Savage Roar. So Savage Roar was applied here, and then let's see what Rip was. So you went berserk. You were able to get Rip up. You got Savage Roar, and you've got plenty of time to do Ferocious Bite, and then you don't have to reapply Rip until here. And is this? Oh, it's Mangle. And then you reapply. Where is it at? Savage Roar here, Rip here, Savage Roar here. Which, if that works, you can fit those Ferocious Bites in, and then you almost always get one at the very end. But yeah, this is pretty much your standard lacerate weave. Really solid. Okay, next is Bodific. Man, I know I butchered that name. I apologize. Okay, so another lacerate weaver, global thermal, big respect, speed, nice. And yeah, you're seeing shred, lacerate, and again, so you're seeing a ton of maul. So this is a true blood lacerate weave. They are. Let me turn off shred. They are mauling a lot, which means they're lacerating a lot. And let's put up. Let's do berserk. And where are we at? Oh, they don't. Oh yeah, Mango Bear. Okay. So you can see they're doing it in clusters, which is more and more common. A lot of people think when you go into Bearweave, especially because I built a macro that does this, go to Bearweave, you put your lacerate or your mangle up, and then you get back out. You don't have to. You can actually hang out in Bearweave or in bear form for 2 GCDs and then go back, because especially if you're monitoring your energy, if your energy is still in 40, there's no real rush to get back. You'll get to use that energy. The only time you don't want to stay in Bearweave is if your energy is above 80, because you're not going to be able to get back in time and use it. So once it gets close to 80, you need to get back in cat and start using it, because it's going to be a DPS loss if you max out your energy. So yeah, you start seeing this clustering a lot in lacerate weaving. But again, standard lacerate weave. Let's go on to number 5. Another lacerate weave. I'm just going to skip over this really quick. I apologize, Ursa. Another big pumper from the Chinese servers. Really good, really great stuff. Again, using speed potion, using the proper bomb, respect. But yeah, honestly, overall, just pretty much a standard lacerate weave, but obviously showing that it is still a thing. Here's where it starts to get interesting. Another Chinese. This is a flower shifter. Now I'm going to stop because I've never explained this in any videos on purpose, because I tried to get people to avoid this, though these make sense, and I'm going to explain why. This is a monocat, sort of. They will shift out of form and cast Gift of the Wild. So that's the flower shifting. And when they do that, it's almost a guaranteed Omen of Clarity proc. So what they do is they pretty much fish for procs when they're low on energy to keep pumping and pumping and pumping, which is why you're going to see these really high shred numbers compared to, actually this one's got, it's probably the length of the fight. But usually it causes higher shreds, better uptime on your rips and your rakes. So yeah, this is pure flower shifting. So cat, 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 flower shift, cat, 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 flower shift. It's essentially, instead of bear weaving, you flower shift. Now there is a huge downside to this, and I'm going to show you why they don't suffer from it. At least I hope they don't. Okay, so let's go to, actually let's just select this. So this is them right here. Okay, but if you look right above it, there's another druid. Now what this does is it allows you, I'm going to look at buffs, to maintain leader of the pack. Now the reason you don't want to flower shift as a cat is because every time you shift out, you're removing that 5% crit from your melee and ranged, specifically your ranged attackers like your hunters. And that's a loss of DPS to your raid. However, if you're running two druids, like a druid tank and a feral, you don't have to worry about this, and you can power shift all you want. Sorry, not power shift, flower shift. Oh man, these names are getting to me. Flower shift all you want without any kind of repercussions here. So it is always up. You don't have to worry about it, and therefore you can, with pretty good comfort. Let me get back. There we go. Do the flower shifting method, and yes, this is the thing, and it is in the top 10 of this particular fight. Excuse me. So it is worth noting that yes, one person you can flower shift. Again, I don't recommend it, especially if you're the only feral. I don't recommend it, but it's a really good way to pump some DPS. Number 7 on the list, right? Yep, is also a flower shifter. Now I'm gonna assume they cast 8, which is way more. I'm gonna assume there's 2 druids in here as well. This is them here marked as a bear, but they also have another one here. Now I'm just going to tell you, I looked, the buff time wasn't 100%, but it was a very close. So I'm going to kind of give them a pass on this. As you can see right here, leader of the pack was 98.76. Yeah, it's only 1% loss. But still, it is something, and especially if that number starts to creep down into like the 95s. I don't know where the line is, but just don't do it unless you have 2 ferals. Okay, let's get back to cast. But yeah, overall, solid speed again. Global thermal, much respect, and yeah, really good job. Next is another lacerate weaver. So this is number 8 on the list. Yeah, number 8. We've got another lacerate weaver using the proper bombs and gloves. I don't know why I point this out, because I just, when I see like the Serenite bombs, I'm like, oh, come on, man, you could have used the good one. Maybe it was on cooldown. I don't know. But yeah, you're seeing the speed again. This is just your standard lacerate weaving. Really, really clean. They are starting to look so similar. Which I think is, obviously a sign of consistency with these rotations. But yeah, let's keep going. Number 9 is another lacerate weaver. Again, same exact patterns you're starting to see here. Speed, no bomb, no judgment, no judgment. But yeah, really good. They probably would have been, I don't know how close it is. I'm gonna say, to get to their head, Bro Bear, if you would have used a bomb here, you would have been number 7. Just saying. I don't know if that's true. Don't hold me to that. Okay. And last, I don't know if this is Chinese. This actually looks more Japanese. But anyway, this is another lacerate weaver at the top 10. Using the speed, using the global thermal and Serenite bomb. Much respect, as it should be. And obviously hyperspeed. But yeah, as you can see, yep, pretty standard. How many lacerates? Mauls. Then we should have some mangle bears. Yep. So yeah, pretty clean run. So I guess that's the top 10. What can we take away from this? Well, number 1 is a monocat, which is very interesting. I'm not saying you have to go monocat now. I really do not want to get that message out there. But I definitely think if you are a monocat struggling with bear, I would work on being a good monocat. And yes, bear weaving is still probably going to boost you a little bit ahead, but don't put too much stress on yourself if you're not perfect on the bear weave. The other thing is lacerate weaving is still here to stay. It hasn't gone away yet, though you are starting to see less and less of them, specifically in this particular fight. And flower shifting is starting to creep up. Again, both of these guys, both of them had a second feral in the group. So it's completely legitimate to, I think, in my opinion, to do that. However, if you are the only feral, you really shouldn't, do that to your raid. It's negative towards your raid. But all in all, guys, I definitely think this is interesting news. Yeah. If you guys have any questions or you guys have any thoughts on this, I do plan on looking into idle swapping soon. Hopefully, I'll be able to do that with someone else's help. In that video, it'll make sense what I'm talking about. But thanks for watching, guys. And as always,